Last week I did a video where I showed you how to take a Google form and automatically take it through to a sheet, then into a doc and into a PDF for doing a dividend voucher, and a few people said they'd like to see how it's done. So I've done the video for you and that's going to follow up next. About half an hour long because there's quite a few steps to do to set it up and for me to take you through how it's set up. So I've slowed it down a little bit, gone through it step by step, and it's something that you could actually follow through yourself using Google Forms. Have a look at the video now.
Hi, this is Kyle. I'm going to take you through now how I built the dividend voucher that I recently shared on LinkedIn and YouTube. That's going to use Google Forms, Google Sheets, Google Docs, and also an add-on that I use called Autocrat that does the merge from the sheets into the docs. Before we get to all of that, let's get started with the very basics. We need to set up a Google form to capture the information that we wanted for the dividend voucher. So I'm using G Suite. I'm in my drive and I'm going to go over, I'm going to set myself a new Google form and get that started now. When Forms loads up, all I get is a very blank form. I can now use this to add relevant questions that I want to capture the answers to, and that's what you can see in front of you here. But before we get started, we're going to want to put those answers into something, and that's a spreadsheet. So I'll click up on responses. I can click this little symbol here to create a spreadsheet, and it will create me a spreadsheet with untitled form responses. Well, untitled form is not very helpful, is it? So maybe it's a good place to start on this is to actually give this a title. So let's call this Dividend Voucher. Dividend Voucher form. That seems pretty straightforward. Names it up here for me. I go over to responses, click on build me a sheet. Now it says dividend voucher form responses, so that makes a lot more sense. And I'll click create, and you can see down here it says it's linking to a spreadsheet, and that's automatically creating the spreadsheet. Here we go. Google Sheets has created it, and we've got up here timestamp and untitled question. So it started to build the sheet for me for what I'm going to capture as the information. So if I go back over to here and go back to the questions, I can now start to build the questions that I want to have in my form. Now the first one I had was, what financial year is this? And I've gone for a multiple choice type question, and I can have here 2019 to 2020, and then I can have 2020 to 2021 as option answers on those. And you'll see down here there's a little toggle switch that says required, and that means whether somebody has to complete that form. And in this case, because we want to automate doing a dividend voucher properly, we're going to say, yeah, that's got to be required every time. So I've selected required. That then automatically updates the sheet with what financial year is this. You probably saw that happen as I switched over to it. So that's what that's going to capture. Now the next thing I want to do is, what's the date of the dividend payment? So we're going to need a new question for that. So we'll click over here and add a question. And what type? Well, I want to have a date one. So I'm going to go for date there. And the question title is going to be date of payment. That's a date calendar that will show up there. Is it required? Yes, it is. Switch that on. That automatically brings up date of payment over here. Go back to the form again. You know, we might think, well, what's this actually going to look like when it's live? If you click up here on this little preview, you can actually see what the form's going to look like. Let's do that now. Dividend voucher, what year? Radio buttons to choose those, date of payment, and we get a little calendar. We can choose the date. So it's really simple for us to fill that in. I'm going to close that back off, and we'll go back in and we'll create the next question. Again, click on the button to add a new question. So I'm going to add over here a multiple choice question, and that's going to be called name of shareholder, and then option one. Now you can see it's jumped and given me a short answer. Why is that? That's Google's machine learning suggesting that, well, I've put name of shareholder. Maybe it wants me to enter a field that's just a name. Well, actually I don't. I want to do a multiple choice for two names. But you can kind of see there how the AI of cloud software is working there for you, and it's suggesting it automatically. So the first option we'll have is the first shareholder, which is John McLean. And then the second shareholder we have is Hans Gruber. You wouldn't think those two would work together well, but there you go. You see, that's the secret of Die Hard. They actually teamed up as directors and shareholders together. So that's added name of shareholder there. And again, that's going to be a required field. The next one is going to be the address. So again, this is multiple choice. So we'll have address, and the address Google again thinks it wants a paragraph this time, so you can understand it's a longer thing, so it's giving you a paragraph, but I want multiple choice. And we're going to have the address there. First address will be John's, and that is Los Angeles. And then we'll have the address of Hans, which is West Germany, as it once was. Next, we'll want the number of shares that each person has in the business. Number of shares, and I'm going to go for a drop down so I can select that. And is it 100, 80, 120? You can have as many as you want on that field there. Let's make that one required. The address one we did required. Shareholder required. Let's have a look at what that looks like now. Okay, so here's the form. So it's 2019, today's date, John McClain, Los Angeles, number of shares he has is 100. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So let's close that back up and finish up the form. The last field that we need to have is the dividend amount. Dividend amount in pounds. And we can have a short answer here. And that's what we're going to use. But you'll notice we've got some validation that's added. Number is number. So it has to be a number that's entered. And then you can have an error message if someone doesn't. So you can say, please enter a numerical value. That's nice and easy. And then select that one to required. And we can preview that. And there we go. We've got the entirety of that. If we put in the wrong one, if we put in D under dividend amount, it says please enter a numerical value. If we put in a number, it's happy. So that's how that validation works. And close that back off. So that's the form built now. And if we go over to the Google Sheet, you'll see that we've got each of the headings. Let's put some data into this sheet so we can actually see how the information looks and then move on to what we do next. So we'll go back over to the form so we can enter some data. And let's fill in the information. 2019 year, payment today, John McClain, Los Angeles, number of shares 100, dividend amount 1,000. Click submit on the form. That's submitted the information captured. Okay, let's put some data into this form responses sheet now. We'll go back over to the form and then we can click on the preview button and we can launch the form live, and then we'll pick one of the years. We'll pick a payment date of today, John McClain, Los Angeles, 100 shares and a dividend amount of £1,000, and we'll click submit. As soon as that's done, you'll see it says that's it. You've entered the data. You don't have to do any more on the form. If we go over to here, we can see that data has been dumped into the sheet straight away, and now we can start to do something with that. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is take that data and put it into a document. That's into the dividend voucher and the minutes automatically. But before we do that, we need to get an add-on to Google Sheets. And this is the great thing with Google Sheets. You can plug in other people's software that enables you to do things that aren't natively built into it. And one of those is the mail merge, which you might remember from the old school days of Microsoft Word. To do that, we need to go to the G Suite Marketplace. So if we load up the G Suite Marketplace here and we search for some apps in here, we'll search for Autocrat, and that will come back. There it is, Autocrat. I'll click onto that. And it tells me that's a document merging tool that creates a PDF or shared documents from a spreadsheet. That's exactly what I want to do. And in this case, there'd be an install button. I've already installed it. You click on that and it will ask you to agree to allow access to your Google Drive from this application. Now, obviously with that kind of thing, you've got to be careful because some things could be malicious. You don't know 100%. But what we can see here is that this has got 4 out of 5 stars and it's got over 9 million users, which gives me some confidence that it's actually a legit tool. So when you click install in Autocrat, you'll find that it adds to the menu system back here in the sheet. Under add-ons, you get the add-on, and it's see add-on Autocrat, and we can click launch. So let's open that up now and see what that looks like. Google now speaks to Autocrat and loads up this information for us. And there we go. It's loaded up and it says you've got no job. So let's create a new job down here. Dividend voucher seems to make a lot of sense to me. Click on next. Now it asks you, what do you want to use as a template for merging into? And you can see already there's an example here of some of the dividend documents that I've already used. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over now and have a look at a template type document that we want to merge these fields into. What you want at this stage is a document that you've created in Google Docs that is the template for your dividend voucher. So I'll look over here and see here's an example of it. It's branded up for Kimberley IT, but it's on behalf of Diard Limited, Nakatomi Towers, and I've got here dividend voucher number, and that'll be the year end, what the date was that we did it, who it was, what their address is, and then we've got the generic text that you need to have, how many shares, what the value was, who signed it, and the director, and then below are the necessary board meetings at Nakatomi Towers penthouse that have been held, and again has the information that we need to go into there. And then the data that's in here will be merged into that template. First thing I'm going to do here is choose that template from Drive, and I can click here to connect to my Google Drive, and straight away Google uses its own AI to suggest that that's the document that I want because it's the last one I worked on, so I don't even have to go and look for it. The AI has already suggested it for me, so I'll select that. I've selected that now, and you can see walkthrough dividend document is the document we're going to merge the fields into. Click next, and this is like an old school mail merge for you. So you can see the header row is row 1 in the sheet, and then the first data row is row 2. That kind of makes sense because these will be the titles that we merge, and below is the data. You can see here are the tags. These tags we have to put into the document, and wherever we put these in the document, the data that's in those fields will be merged into it. So go back over to here. I've got dividend voucher. What financial year is it? So that's the tag, and that's where I want the answer 2019, 2020 to go. So for the rest of these, I've got to fill that in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I've added the tagged fields into the document now. That's the template. So you can see dividend voucher number, financial year end, date of payment, name of shareholder, address, a value of X per share has been declared. I haven't filled that in, but I'll come back to it in a minute. Financial year end there, number of shares, dividend amount, name of shareholder and the signature, and then down to the meeting minutes. Again, date of payment, name of shareholder, date of payment. Now there are a couple of fields here that if you've been watching, I haven't got, which is what's the number of the dividend voucher, and we'd like that to be sequential. We want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. and go through those. So that needs to be created. And also, what is the actual dividend price per share? We know how many shares each one of the directors has got, and we know what their total dividend is, but we do need to state what the price is per share. And obviously, that's going to be the amount of the dividend declared divided by the number of shares. But that isn't a field that we entered into the form because we don't want to have to do that maths. We want the computer to do it for us. How do we get this sheet to do some automatic calculations for us? And we're going to use something called the script editor to do that. Now, don't get too fearful about this. You don't need to really know how to be able to code. There are a few things that you need to be able to do, but they're no more complicated than doing any kind of formula in the spreadsheet. So if you're pretty good at doing formulas, or you're confident about how to learn how to do formulas, you'll be able to do the same with the script. And what the script does, it automatically performs a calculation in this sheet when the form is submitted. Let me give you an example. And what we'll do is we'll go to Tools, and then we'll go over to Script Editor. Script Editor's opened up. What we're going to want to do is create a field in our sheet called number for the number of the dividend voucher. And then we're going to enter into here. We want that to automatically incrementally go from 1, 2, 3, etc. So to do that, we're going to create a little script. Back over here at Script Editor, I'm going to go and create a new script file, and I'm going to call this dividend voucher number. So the function's called dividend voucher number, and I'm going to declare a variable on the actual sheet itself, and that then does spreadsheet app get active sheet, which is the one we're working on. And then a next variable is the row, and then it goes spreadsheet app get active sheet, get the last row. And when it says get last row, it means what's the next one available. Get the last one that's been filled in with a number. Then tell the sheet to get the range row number 9 and set the value to the number that it got. Well, what number have we got here for H? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's actually row number 8. So in here, we'd need to change that to row number 8. And then on our first line that we do, we'll manually set that to 1. And then we can go back into the form and we'll run this through. And then that will generate a number 2. Whenever we create a new line of data, that will automatically fill that in with the value of 2. Here I am in the script editor again. And what we'll need to do now is we need to save this information for this project. So I'm going to rename this project Dividend Voucher Project, and that saves it. Nothing's going to happen with the script until we tell it to do something. And to tell it to do something, it's called a trigger. So how do we set a trigger for it? If we go down to edit and go to current projects triggers, and these are the triggers for this project. Down here, go for add trigger. What function do we want? The dividend voucher number, the one that generates the next number, and on what event. So what happens that causes it to do it? We want the form. When the form is submitted, that's when we want it to do that. The trigger to run is the one that builds us our new number, pulls it from the spreadsheet, and it does it when the form's submitted. At this point now, you can see Google asks me to authorize that this script's allowed to run on my account, so I'm going to choose yes to that. If I want something that's automatically going to do something here, that edit, create, delete my spreadsheets and manage my forms, that I trust it, that it can do it. And so I say yes, because I'm trusting Google within Google. But it's a good safety feature. It's not going to let you do something without you approving what you want to happen. It might make sense now if I take you through actually entering data into a form, and you'll see how this works. We go back to the dividend voucher form and let's enter some more data for a new voucher. So the year 2019, let's do that earlier this month. Hans Gruber this time, West German. How many shares has he got? He's got 80. What's the dividend amount? Well, being Hans, he's after the big bucks, 10,000. Click submit. That automatically enters that now into the sheet, and you can see there, number 3 has been added incrementally. So the script has run and it's seen that that number is 2, and then it said the next number is 3, so it adds that 3 automatically. And we've got dividend voucher number. That's going to be arrow arrow number arrow arrow, which is the tag, and the tag will be the name of the field, which is number, so I know that that's the correct tag. And now when this is merged, that number will go there, so that will automatically generate the next number. How do we work out how much the value of the interim share is? That's the total number of the dividend divided by the number of shares. We're going to use the script editor to do that now. Now we need to have a field in here that's going to be the value for the dividend. So we're going to call that dividend value per share. That'll do. Dividend value per share. So that's going to be the tag that goes into the document. And if we go to the document, we're going to come down to an interim dividend of, here's where we're going to want that. Dividend value per share goes there. And also we want that further down here in the meetings, interim dividend of dividend value per share goes there as well. So we've got those merge fields now put back into the document. So the next step is, how do we calculate what that value is in this field? How are we going to get it to automatically do the maths for us when it creates a new row? Because normally what you do here is you click into this field here, and then you would use the functions that you've got in the spreadsheet to automatically do the calculation, which isn't exactly difficult. You would click on it here, and then let's go, well, we want to do the sum of the total amount that the person's got divided by how many shares they've got. That makes sense. Click enter and it's 10. It's pretty easy to work that out. However, the thing is, when we submit the form, we're going to create the new row automatically. So there's not going to be the formula already in this field. Now, I suppose what we could do is we could do something like this and just drag this down here, and that would automatically do that. You can see it's done the next one there. It's done 125 based off 10,000 divided by 80. But it's a bit ugly. I thought that was a bit ugly. So we want to do this using script instead, because it looks prettier, it looks nicer, and it's pretty cool to do. But you can see you can just do it in the traditional way if you want to. As each one of these fills up, that will actually have some values go into it that make sense. But let's roll back a little bit on this, and we'll do this using a script instead. What we do now is go back over to our script editor, and we want to create ourselves a new script. So it's a file, new script file, and we'll call this calc dividend. For calculating the dividend, there it is. That's empty now, and I'm going to paste in the code that we use, which I've put in it to here. So the function's called calc dividend, and I've declared some variables again. So the variable sheet is get the spreadsheet we're on. Variable last row is get the last row of the spreadsheet. So if you think that makes logical sense, it's like the next line that's been added. So get that line of information. And here's a little bit we've got here now called fill down range. And what this does is that's going to get the range of a certain number of rows and columns. The fill down range means we want to fill down this column. So that's what the fill down range means. And we want to start on row 2 and it's column 9, row 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the one we want to enter the data. So that's why we've got 2, 9, and then we have last row minus 1. And the reason we have last row minus 1 is we do want it to ignore row 1, and that's what the last row minus 1 does, because the last row statement will just look and it will include number 1, and we don't want it to include number 1. We want it to start from number 2, so it's this field here that we're going to fill in. It's the next one down as we enter the form, and then we want the dividend number to be the range I2I, and what I2I means is I2 starts from there and then I all the way down forever. So it's going to fill in the next one in I2, I3, etc. all the way down forever. It just keeps on going. And here's what we actually get the script to do, because these are variables. Now we're going to tell it to do something. So sheet, get the range I2 and set the formula to be G2 divided by F2, G2 being the dividend amount divided by the number of shares. That makes sense. That's what the dividend value per share is going to be. Then we tell the sheet, get the range I2 and copy it to the fill down range. And we know that the fill down range starts at number 2 and it's in column number 9. So it starts there and fill down. That's what that's telling it to do. And then it says set that number, that's the next one that's free, in the format of 0.0. So I've got 2 decimal places in that, and that's what that's going to do. Let's go back to our project triggers. So we open current projects triggers, and we're going to add a new trigger. It's going to load up the functions we've created, and here we have calc dividend as our function. Head stays the same, spreadsheet stays the same, event type when the form is submitted. Click save, and that means now that when we submit the form, it will run that calculation. It will run these 2 events will happen whenever we finish submitting the form. So let's go through the process of submitting some more information into this here, and let's see what we get. What year? 2021 this time. The date of the payment is Christmas Day. It's John's turn again, and he's got 100 shares, and this time he's going to have £3,000, and we click submit, and bingo. What it's actually done is it's retrospectively filled it in 2 for us, because it starts from the top and works down. So it said the dividend value per share here for the first instance, 1,000 divided by 100. The next one, 125, 10,000 divided by 80. And then the third one, 3,000 divided by 100, which is 30. And it's automatically created as the voucher number there in sequence. So you can see how this is going to start to work. The next one we do, we'll do the next row, and so on and so forth. So now we've got a sheet that has got the information we want in it, and it's automatically calculating what the number is and the dividend value per share is in a beautiful way without having all the ugly stuff down there. How do you get that into a document? Let's do that next. We want to put it back into the document. So here's the document. This is the dividend form and minutes. And now we want to enter that new field that we've got into here. We've got dividend value per share. There it is, dividend value per share. We've got that in there. So we go back to the sheet and we load up the add-on Autocrat again. Now this is where we build the merge document. So let's start from scratch and set up a new job. This will be dividend. Where do we want to go through? Well, it's this one here, walk through dividend document. So it's recognized what I've done in the past, so we'll choose use on that, and then enables us to link them. So yep, it's found that document. And here we go. Look, here's the tags that link. So number maps to number, which makes sense. Financial year to financial year, date of payment, etc. So it's mapped all those fields. Now, dividend value per share, it doesn't know. And that's probably an upper and lowercase thing that I've got here. Yeah, it is, because I've got it with a lowercase here and an uppercase here. So that's my kind of error, but you can see you can go in and select it yourself and manually map it. Number of shares, dividend amount, that's all right. So each of the fields maps correctly. So that means it's going to pull the data out the sheet and put it into the right place on each of the documents. Click next. What do we want to call the file name? Well, you can use some tags for this. So if we call it voucher for who we want it to be, dividend voucher for name of shareholder, and that was when you click on it, it automatically puts it on the clipboard. So this is going to create a file called dividend voucher for name of shareholder on, and we probably want the date that it's done. That would make sense. So that would be the date of payment. Again, on the clipboard, paste. Output type Google Doc or PDF. We want PDF. We'll choose next. Where do we want to save that? And we'll click choose folder. And I've chose my walkthrough folder that I'm using here in Google Drive, so I can choose. Do I want to put any dynamic kind of references in? And these things are, you can put different data into the actual folder and things. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to keep it as it is. And finally there we've got some conditions that you might have. So you can say that if the date of payment is not something, then it will not happen. Again, that's sort of additional complexity that we don't want. So we're not going to have any of those. This is a good one. Can I share it and send it by email? I'm not going to do it in this case, but you can share that as an email and it be automatically sent to people, and you can put in the email style that you want to do there as well. So you can have this automatically emailed to you as well. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go with it being put into the folder. Final part here we need now. Run on form trigger. Yes. And it tells us now we have to enable triggers for the project. So we click yes, and Autocrat does that for us automatically. It's going to update the project triggers so that when we run the form, it automatically runs this merge and builds it. You could also tell it to do on a time instance as well if you wanted. You could say run it every hour. But there's no need to do that, because when we submit the form, we want to put the data into the sheet, and then we want the sheet to create the document, and we just want it to happen there and then. And now in Autocrat, what we'll have is we'll have one job that we've set up called Dividend Voucher, and there it is. It's done automatically. So we can click close on that, and we can go back now over to the Dividend Voucher form, and we'll go through the process of creating another one. 2020, 17th, Hans Gruber, West Germany, number of shares 80, dividend amount £44, and we'll click on submit. Okay, you can see it start to create these now one by one for the ones we've already done, and here are the URLs for it. So I can click on that and that'll take me over to that actual file, and here it is. It's created it for me. Dividend voucher for John McLean on the date we suggested. There's the voucher number 2 for that financial year end. Here's the information that we want to put in. It's done the division correctly. 1,000 divided by 100 is 10, and it's created it. And below that, it's created the board minute meetings as well, and that's automatically been done. So that's taken a point where we've got the output without having to do any work whatsoever. It just does it completely automatically for you. There they are. It's created those two there. There's the second one for Hans Gruber. We'll open that, and there's the dividend for number 3 for Hans Gruber, and that's automatically been created for you. That's how you take a Google form and go through to a Google Sheet, to a Google Doc, and then create a PDF automatically for a dividend voucher using Autocrat. And you could use this for any kind of information that you need to capture that needs to go from a form into a sheet, and then the sheet into a document, and then merge it into a PDF. And you could use it for any format that you want. And that's going to save you tons and tons of time. Click the form and it does it all for you, and you can see the vouchers there. And you could even set it up so that it would email you when it was finished, which is a pretty cool way to do it. I hope this tutorial has been helpful. I'm going to put some links in the YouTube video for Autocrat and things like that if you want to do it yourself. It's an example of the sort of things that we do at Kimberley IT. If you like what you've watched here, then you can click on the bell to subscribe on YouTube. We do more videos. I'll put more of these how-tos out because I think people like them. I've been Kyle. I hope this has been valuable to you. I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da.